Peace and love to everyone out there. Greetings to another episode of the Audacity Show, episode 3. This episode is titled Syzygy, Celestial Confirmations in 2025. And today, first and foremost, I want to thank and appreciate everyone that's watching, has watched some of my videos, my posts. I'm super grateful for everyone that's tapping in. I know this information doesn't resonate with everyone, and it might not resonate with everyone, but my goal is to share as much information as possible, right? This is a year where we got to tap into our authenticity, our inner selves, and my inner self has been telling me to share this information that I've come across for a long time, and this is the perfect time to do it. So with that being said, we won't keep posting this information, keep sharing this information to the masses. And again, some of this information that I post or I talk about, it might be a little controversial. It might be conspiracy theories, right? It might just go over some people's heads, right? We live in a world where people just want entertainment. They want to gossip. Their attention span is 10 seconds, 15 seconds max, with all the reels coming out, TikToks and everything like that, right? So posting, making posts or posting streams, lives that are an hour long. I know a lot of people, can't or won't sit through the whole thing, but I promise you, I'm not up here sharing information for nothing. This is information that does need to get out there, and it's important information. If you listen to what I'm saying, do your own research. I stated before, this information is not for anyone to believe what I'm saying. I'm not trying to persuade anyone to, think a certain way or believe certain beliefs or whatnot. That's not my goal. That's not my intention. My intention is just to share this information that I've come across. I like to think of myself as an open-minded observer, and I just observe things from a different perspective, I guess. And today we're going to talk about first of all, Syzygy, the definition of Syzygy, what it means, right? We're going to talk about the celestial bodies, the planetary alignment that started yesterday, and it's going to be occurring for the next month or so, a month or two, I think. And, we're going to touch on the importance of that. That's a super rare event. It only happens every, I believe every 20 years, something like that. And as I stated many times before, we got to pay attention to the signs and what the universe is trying to tell us. So with that being said, we're going to touch on a lot of things today, and we're going to try to put some pieces of the puzzle together. And for anyone watching, remember, just keep an open mind, With that being said, we're going to get started with the introduction of the word Syzygy, right? So this word is spelled Syzygy, right? Syzygy. And yesterday's cosmic event, the beginning of the planetary alignment, the celestial bodies being in alignment, that's what a Syzygy is. That event is called Syzygy. In Greek terms, it literally means like union, coming together, right? And if you break down the word, like SY is a root for together. So for example, if you think of like synchronicity, right, or in sync, that means things correlating in alignment together, right? So it's no different for the word Syzygy. Now, technically, last year's solar eclipse in April of 2024 can also be considered a Syzygy, right? Because these celestial bodies don't have to be in exact alignment. Like the one occurring right now is kind of like an arc rather than a straight line, right? So it basically just means the celestial bodies being in proximity of each other. So last year's solar eclipse, obviously the sun, the moon, earth, being in proximity of each other could be considered a syzygy, right? So the big deal about this one is that this many planets, 7 planets to be exact, at one time in proximity of each other, it hasn't been seen since 2000, and before that it was 1982, which 1982 is more of the one that people talk about, right? Now, there's a couple of things that can happen during this time, Syzygy, right? And we're going to touch on a lot of things, the symbology behind it, the significance, the important, because it is a very important event, regardless of, whether people are paying attention to it or not. It's extremely important, I like to think, right? So during Syzygy, right, there's something that is called an Einstein ring that can occur. Now, an Einstein ring, you could think of it as, I'm looking at a ring light right now. You can think of it as like a ring light, right? It's basically when electromagnetic rays are affected by gravitation, and when they're passed by a heavy mass, they're bent, like a ring. And the heavy masses obviously being the celestial bodies, the planets, the sun, the moon. As a result, the heavy mass act as a form of gravitational lens. Again, like a ring light, right? So if the light source, the gravitating mass, and the observer stand in line, one sees what is termed an Einstein ring. And now, I'm still new to this whole live streaming thing, recording podcasts or whatnot. So I still got to work on my editing and sharing images and posting images while I talk or whatnot. But I am going to make a post to show people an example, right, of a Einstein ring. Now, what I found interesting about that the syzygy can make or an Einstein ring can be viewed after a syzygy is actually in the name Einstein, right? And the reason I found that interesting is because a couple days ago, the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, now this is JP Morgan Bank, like Chase Bank, Jamie Dimon is the CEO. And before I get into what he said, I just want to talk about Jamie Dimon for a sec. So Jamie Dimon is a prominent figure in America. He is important in the financial world, right? And I do play the financial market, so he's extremely important. What he says is important, and it's so important that it actually moves the market sometimes. So when he talks negative about the market, it can come down. It's not going to come down for a long time, but he can spark a little downturn. And vice versa, if he says something positive, the market could react in a good way. So for example, in 2022, he was talking about a recession, right? And economically speaking, he was right. The definition of a recession occurred in 22. Now, the media ignored it or denied it. Now, that's not surprising because we do live in a world of denial, especially here in America. But economically speaking, there was a recession in 22. And we're still either coming out of it or, slightly in it. Because in a recession, what happens is when inflation is going up, right? The prices of everything going up, housing, food, cars, living, and wages, the price we're getting paid stays stagnant, right? When everything is going up but our pay stays stagnant, things start to crack, right? Unemployment starts rising because people are losing jobs, whatnot. They can't afford certain things. They start losing homes. Mortgages are defaulting. Credit card debt is going up. This is all, economically speaking, falls into the category of a recession. So when he talked about it in 22 and it was basically ignored or denied, he actually was right. So that being said, the reason I highlight what Jamie Dimon said this week is because he had an interview on CBS, and this was in Davos, Switzerland. Now, every year in Davos, Switzerland, the financial leaders around the globe meet up for the World Economic Forum. So this is like the CEOs of companies, billionaires, global leaders. They talk about their economies, their economic outlooks, projections for their companies, things that are coming on the horizon. So, for example, a couple years ago, the main topic in Davos, Switzerland, at the Economic Forum was artificial intelligence. Now, that's all they were talking about, and we seen how that played out. We seen that since then, the past 2 years, that's what's been trending, is artificial intelligence, right? Now, what Jamie Dimon said is, some of the things he says is controversial, but I like Jamie Dimon because he says what is on his mind, right? And what he stated was, one, that the financial markets are overbought, right? And a correction is due, and that means the stock market come down a bit, right? Now, this isn't like a crash or anything like that. We got to understand that stocks in the financial market have to come down. That's natural order. Everyone has ups and downs in life, right? In sports, teams win and lose, right? It's the same thing in the stock world, right? Like, you have some wins, you have some losses. The whole point of the stock market is having more wins than losses, basically, right? So when he talks about a correction that the market has to pull back, he's actually right. I agree with him right now. Everything is way overbought, and there's a lot of euphoria in the market. But that wasn't the important thing he said, right? What stuck out to me was that he compared Elon Musk, speaking of controversial, he compared Elon Musk to Albert Einstein. He stated that Elon Musk is this generation's Einstein. Now, you all know by now, or should know by now, by my posts and recent videos, that I like to pay attention to signs and what's trending and analyze things from a different perspective, right? So I thought it was interesting that the name Einstein was trending right ahead of this planetary alignment, which, should display the Einstein ring in the cosmos. Now, why do I find that interesting? The reason I find that interesting is because Einstein is trending for two different reasons, right? Completely, are they relevant, or are they correlated? I don't know, right? But I always, again, look at things from a different perspective. Now, the last video I posted, the calamity in California, I made a post actually on my Instagram as well, talking about the word Topanga. Now, Topanga is a area in California that was on fire, and it was trending because it was on fire. But the same week, it was actually a couple days before the wildfires, another Topanga was trending, and that was Topanga, the actress from Boy Meets World. And the reason she was trending was because she's not really out in the public like that. She was seen at a wrestling event, right? And everyone loves Topanga, and they were happy to see her and talking about she still looks good, she still looks the same or whatnot, right? So she was trending. And then a couple days later, Topanga was trending again for a different reason, right? Now, in this instance, we're seeing the same thing. The name Einstein was trending because Jamie Dimon compared Elon Musk to Einstein. And then I believe the Einstein ring will be trending because that's one of the consequences, right? That's one of basically the symptoms that happens during a Syzygy, a planetary alignment. Now, just bear with me, right? Just think of things from a different light, I should say, right? Another consequence of a Syzygy is that may occur. These things are consequences. These things are kind of like symptoms, like I said, right, of a planetary alignment. Things happen when the planets are in alignment around each other. And one of the things that can happen is called a spring tides. Now, this is when the new and full moon, the new and full moon, when the new and full moon are visible, the moon and the sun are in alignment, right? So the tidal, like a tidal wave, the tidal forces act to reinforce each other, and the ocean both rises higher than average and it falls lower than average. So what does that mean, right? Basically, all that means is that the ocean's tides will be higher than normal and lower than normal. And why is that important? Well, that's important because when they're higher than normal, we might see floods, we might see like tsunamis or whatnot. And if they're lower than normal, we might see a drought, right? Or we might see animals washing up ashore, right? Because there's low tides, right? Now, the important part about that is that these influences in the water, down here on Earth, may affect the frequency of earthquakes, all right? Or tsunamis, right? So I want to pay attention to that in the next couple months. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not up here fear mongering, anything like that. This is information that's out there in the public. These are real things that happened in the past and can happen in the present or the future when this planetary alignment occurs. So there's actually a book called The Jupiter Effect that was written about this exact event. Now, this book was published in 1974 by astrophysicists John Gibbon and Stephen Plageman. And what their hypothesis was basically that this rare planetary alignment, specifically involving Jupiter and other planets, could trigger natural disasters on Earth. So in 1974, they are astrophysicists, right? They study astronomy and the skies, right? Basically, right? The planets. And they predicted that there would be a planetary alignment coming soon, right? And the important thing that they stated was that this could trigger natural disasters on Earth, particularly massive earthquakes and or volcano eruptions, tsunamis, right? Because of the gravitational pull I spoke about earlier. Now, the scary part about this actually is that it focused particularly on the San Andreas Fault in California. Now, I'm going to get in depth into what the San Andreas Fault in California is and why it's relevant. But when they originally wrote this book, they were predicting this to happen in 1982. And in 1982, there was a planetary alignment. The problem was that the natural disasters didn't follow as predicted. So, of course, the masses criticized them, stated they were wrong, whatnot. They kind of brushed it off. But that has happened before. People make predictions and they're wrong, or not wrong. Maybe the timing is off. And again, I can relate this to the stock market. Like I might, Jamie Dimon, for example, he might state that the market needs to correct, right? He might be wrong in saying that right now. That doesn't mean he's wrong in the future. Maybe it doesn't correct right now this week, but in a couple months it corrects. Technically, he was right. So that's what these astrophysicists were doing. They predicted it. They might have been early. But the important thing is that this is happening again. A planetary alignment. So realistically, these natural disasters can happen again. And we already are witnessing one of the biggest natural disasters in American history. The wildfires in California, they're literally still going. It's been like a month. Crazy, right? We're still praying for everyone in LA. And the last thing we want to see is something happen in LA or California again, right? But the San Andreas Fault in California is what they were focused on. Now, the San Andreas Fault, it stretches for approximately 800 miles across California, from north to south, right? And it cuts through some of the most populous and significant regions of the state. So the San Andreas Fault is basically like a crack in the earth. You can look this up. It's been there for years. And it moves. Like, so the seismic plates, the tectonic plates of the earth, right? They like rub together and they move. I believe it's like maybe 2 feet or 200 feet, something like that. It moves yearly. So these things are rubbing together, causing more friction, causing more cracks in the earth. And that is scary because there has been a lot of predictions. And again, I'm not fear mongering. You can look this up. There has been a lot of predictions of natural disasters in California, specifically stating that it potentially could detach from the United States. And when they're talking about that, I'm assuming they're talking about the San Andreas Fault, because it's already a crack there. You know what I'm saying? One huge disaster can finalize that crack and, basically float away. You know what I'm saying? Detach from American soil, which is crazy to think about. And, I hope this doesn't happen, obviously, right? But some of the geographical areas along the fault are very prominent and important. Some of those are in Southern California, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Palm Springs, Coachella Valley. In Central California, Bakersfield, Palmdale, Hollister. In Northern California, San Francisco, San Jose, Santa Cruz. Now, my brother he travels with his wife. He's currently in San Francisco, and he just experienced his first earthquake, like aftershock. And he called me and he was like, yo, that was crazy or whatnot, right? Everything's okay, but this prompted him to kind of research the history of San Francisco and the earthquakes. And what he told me he learned is basically that the structures, the buildings, the infrastructure in San Francisco, now beneath them, they have like springs. So when these things happen, earthquakes or whatnot, instead of like the buildings collapsing, they actually rock. They have a little bounce to them, but that's, I guess, for stability, right? So anyways, some of the other landmarks or natural features that are important in that area are the Salton Sea, which is a large lake located in the Imperial Valley near the southern end of the fault. We have the Carrizo Plain National Monument, which is a remote area where the fault is actually visible at the surface, and it has like a dramatic scar in the landscape. So just think of that. If you have like a huge gash on your leg or something, that's what it literally is, but on the earth. Right? Then we have the San Andreas Lake, which is a reservoir located just west of the fault in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have the Point Reyes National Seashore, which is a coastal area in Northern California that was displaced several feet during the 1906 earthquake. And we're going to get to the history of earthquakes in that area in a second. We have the San Bernardino Mountains. Now, these mountains have been shaped in part by the tectonic activity along the fault line. So these mountains were either not there or they moved around. And they constantly move around because of the activity, the tectonic, the seismic activity in that area. We also have the Cajon Pass, which is a crucial transportation corridor connecting South California to the high desert region. So these are all significant areas around the San Andreas Fault. Now, the history of earthquakes, right? The San Andreas Fault has been responsible for some of the most destructive earthquakes in U.S. history, including in 1857, the Fort Tejon earthquake. That was a magnitude of 7.9, right? It was one of the largest earthquakes recorded along the fault. The rupture extended over 225 miles and it caused significant damage and displacement in Central and Southern California. But despite its magnitude, the fatalities were low because the population in the area was low. So basically, there wasn't that many people, so there wasn't that many deaths. Now, in 1906, the San Francisco earthquake. Now, this one it was a magnitude of 7.9 as well. This one's a little more familiar. Like, I've heard about this one in U.S. history class or whatnot, but this one was really bad. Now, it's one of the most infamous and deadly earthquakes in American history. It destroyed much of San Francisco, roughly 80%, right? And the reason, it wasn't only the earthquake, the damage it caused. What happened was that the gas lines beneath the land erupted, they ignited, which makes sense, right? The earth is shaking, rumbling, things are falling, gas lines are gonna pop, break, things are gonna break, fall, collapse. So this happened. It destroyed 80% of the city, over 3,000 deaths. Now, if you know San Francisco is huge. So for this earthquake to destroy 80% is a wild, wild number. But that earthquake is what prompted what I said earlier about the infrastructure building, right? They started putting sturdier materials and springs underneath so this wouldn't happen again, right? Now, in 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake occurred in this area. This was actually near Santa Cruz in North California. It was a magnitude of 6.9, and it caused significant damage again to San Francisco in the Bay Area, collapsing parts of the Bay Bridge and killing 63 people. Now, when I hear the Bay Bridge, right, I think about the most significant landmark in San Francisco, and that's the Golden Gate Bridge. And the reason I think about that is because all these earthquakes happening in that area, right, prompts me or provokes thought. Because I start thinking about how stable is that bridge? Like, are they working on that bridge, checking it constantly every day, every week, every month, every year? I don't know. I'm not from that area, so I don't know how frequent this happens, but I'm pretty sure that with all these earthquakes and the damages out there, all this seismic activity, I'm not sure if that bridge is stable as it should be. Let's just say that. And I hope I'm wrong, but there has been a lot of predictions about the Golden Gate Bridge, and I don't even want to talk about it, honestly, because I don't want to manifest it or whatnot, but you do your research and, look at the things that have been said about that bridge. Now, 1994, the North Ridge earthquake. This magnitude was 6.7, and it wasn't directly along the San Andreas Fault, but it was caused by a nearby fault system, right, related to tectonic forces of the region. It led to major structural collapses in LA and surrounding areas with about 57 fatalities and $44 billion in damage. Now, in comparison, the wildfires right now are roughly, I think they said $150 billion. So they're 3 times more the damage that occurred back then. But in 1994, 44 billion was a lot of money. It still is today. So that one was crazy. And then in 2004, the Parkfield earthquake magnitude was 6.0. But the important part about this earthquake is that Parkfield is actually known as the earthquake capital of the world, because it's just constantly shaking and quaking. So, seismologists, which study earthquakes, they believe that the fault is actually overdue for a major rupture, particularly in Southern California. And again, I hate to talk about that, right? Because we already know what California is going through right now. Like, we can't emphasize enough how bad it is with those fires. So to think of what this planetary alignment can cause, like more natural disasters in that area specifically, yeah, we don't want to think about that. But it could get ugly. But studies suggest that, there's a high likelihood, over 70%, of a magnitude 7.0 earthquake occurring in California soon. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're wrong. I hope this information is wrong. And I pray for everyone in the areas. But it is something to pay attention to. Now, all that information is kind of grim, right? But I'm just trying to, get some thoughts flowing. People start thinking, whatever. Hopefully some people in California see this and they start to rethink things, right? Or their locations or whatnot. I don't know. I'm just doing my part. But there's very interesting things happening, right? And I'm a book reader. I have read hundreds of books. I still have hundreds of books. You can see them right behind me. And some of the books, a lot of the books I read are esoteric knowledge, which is like occult knowledge, which is, you know, information that is, people think is questionable, controversial, conspiracy theories, or whatever. But what some people can't deny is the fact that a lot of the predictions in these books come to fruition. And the reason I state that is because one of the authors, Aleister Crowley, he is super big into like occultism and esoteric knowledge and things like that, right? And one of his books, titled Thoth, the Tarot Deck, is actually he has a book, right, about it, but he also has a deck of cards, like tarot cards, right? You know, when you go get your cards read, something like that. But he has a deck of cards, and one of those cards, right, has the number X on it, which is a Roman numeral for the number 10, right? And we're going to talk about the letter X and the significance of it, the algorithm of X that's playing out in real time right now. I'm gonna make a whole episode of that because there's too much coincidence, if you want to call them that, with that number, with that letter. You know, it's interchangeable. But anyways, at the top of that card, I'm gonna post a picture of this card. At the top of that card, the Roman numeral X signifies completion, the end of a cycle and the beginning of another, right? It symbolizes destiny and the turning of events beyond human control. And why is that important? Well, we are in a 9-year. 2025 is a 9-year, which means this is a year completion, the end of a cycle, right? And next year, being a 1-year, would be the beginning of another. It would actually be a 10-year, but 1 plus 0 is 1, which is still symbolizes the beginning of something new beginnings, right? So on that image that I'm gonna post, right, the card from this book, right, it also has a hand from the cloud, basically like a hand pointing down from the cloud, and this represents divine intervention or higher forces at play, guiding the motion of the life's wheel. So this card is called the Wheel of Fortune, right? So divine intervention, something, you know, higher power, something happening above us, right? And I've touched a lot in all my videos of aligning with your higher purpose, because the universe, our ancestors, the signs are telling us something and we have to pay attention. So that's what the hand from the cloud is symbolizing, divine intervention. Now, the card also has an image of the planets in a circle. It's not in alignment like we're in right now, but it's in a circle, and it contains Saturn, the Moon, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and outside of that wheel is like a ring of eyes, like eyes, right? And it looks kind of spooky, right? But the significance of these eyes, they're the watchful eyes. They symbolize awareness, consciousness, and divine omniscience, right? Signifying that nothing happens without spiritual observation. So anything you do in the dark comes to the light. And we're seeing that again, as I stated in my first video about Hollywood. Anything you do in the dark comes to the light. I don't have to mention names, but that's what's happening, right? That's what the eyes on this card symbolize, but they also symbolize awareness and consciousness. You got to be aware of what's going on. You got to be aware of yourself, right? Your likes, your dislikes, right? Your good traits, your bad traits, your standards, your essentials, non-essentials, right? All these things you got to be aware of, and you got to be aware of your consciousness. You got to work on your consciousness. You got to work on tapping into your consciousness, tapping into your inner self, your authentic selves, and trying to vibrate, right, at a higher frequency. Now, the card suggests that life moves in cycles of ups and downs, dictated by forces greater than human will. Some call it supreme being, higher power, source, God, whatever you want to call it, Jesus Christ, Allah, whatever you want to call it, right? It also implies fate and destiny, that luck and misfortune are transient, right? And adaptability is the key to success. And I touched on this on my last video, how, the California wildfires are unfortunate, but the key to success, to rebuilding, is resiliency and adaptability. And that's what this card signifies. The spiritual lessons in the card is basically it encourages surrender to life's flow while also recognize opportunities for growth and transformation. So it's basically just stating like, don't fight the flow of life. When things are happening, feel the emotions. I'm not telling you to be, stoic and cold. Feel the emotions that you're feeling, whether good or bad. But then when that's over, because that has to pass, recognize that there's opportunities for growth and transformation. So don't ever look at a loss as that a loss. It's more of a lesson. Learn from everything, good or bad, right? If you, in sports, if you lose a basketball game, you could watch film and learn from what, the mistakes you made and be better in the next game. And then you can also learn from the wins. Go look at what you did right and try to imitate that again so you can have a better chance of winning again, right? Now, what I believe the universe is offering us is a powerful, opportunity, again, for growth and reflection. As the planets aligning, it's not just an astronomical phenomenon. It's really deeply symbolic. It's reflecting the universal law of as above, so below, as within, so without. So just as the planet is in alignment in the cosmos, this is the time for us to align with our inner selves, align our chakras, our energy, seek our purpose, right? And try as hard as possible to be in alignment with the universe. Now, I know it's tough with all the distractions going on, all the negativity in the external world, especially with the turbulence of the new president and his side buddy, and all the global changes going on. But the focus right now should be on our internal selves, our shadow work. This means self-discovery, activating our inner energy, practicing things like meditation, mindfulness, tapping in with nature, focusing on chakra alignment, right? Focusing on sparking that kundalini energy, right? This planetary alignment is a reminder that the cosmos and our inner being are actually linked and in tune with each other, in tune with our authentic selves, right? I always touch on the importance of authenticity and audacity, right? I feel like this show, the two pillars for this show are authenticity and audacity. I want to come up here and be authentic as possible. And, my goal is to have the audacity to talk about things that nobody else is talking about. I'm not going to come up here and gossip about who's doing what. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I touch on something that's trending, right? Like any beef, any celebrities trending, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Why are they trending? Not because Shade Room posted it, right? Or your favorite podcaster posted it. No, I want to look underneath that. You know what I'm saying? I want to understand, not understand. I want to understand the true meaning of what's happening. So, I want to speak a little bit about the celestial bodies, right, that are in alignment, right? And these celestial bodies all have traits just like us, right? But they also are linked to certain elements, certain colors, certain chakras, and they're significant in their own ways, right? So we're going to start off with the sun. And the traits of the sun are vitality, life force, purpose, confidence, right? The element is fire. It's associated with the colors gold or yellow or bright colors, like orange or red. It's linked to the solar plexus chakra, right? Which governs the personal power, right? Self-esteem and willpower, right? And then the significance of it is that it's a reminder to stand in your power, embrace your purpose, and shine your inner light. So just like the sun is shining its light, we must shine our inner light as well. Now, these celestial bodies also are linked to weekdays, right? And this is something a lot of people know. They might not know, but I'm going to go over it. Obviously, the sun is linked to Sunday, right? Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is the moon, right? And the moon's traits are emotions, intuition, nurturing, the subconscious. Its element is water. The colors are silver or grays or white. The chakra is linked to is the sacral chakra, which is associated with creativity, emotions, and relationships. The significance is, it encourages emotional healing and intuitive connection, allowing us to flow with life's rhythm, right? Flow because it's a water element, right? And, when you think about the moon and your emotions flowing, right? You can be up and down, right? And your intuition or whatnot. When there's like a full moon, a new moon, there's always the tides are moving, high tides, low tides, the water is moving, right? The moon is linked with water, right? And if it moves the water across the globe in the ocean, it's obviously gonna, we're 70% water. So it's gonna have an effect on us too, our emotions, right? So, and the moon is linked with the weekday Monday, moon day, or in Spanish, lunes, luna, right? And this is why a lot of people are emotional on Mondays. People have the weekend off and they come into Mondays all grouchy, like, oh my God, I can't believe it's Monday. They're moody. Moon, Monday, moody. Anyways, the next day that I'm going to talk, the next planet I'm going to talk about is Mars. And Mars's traits are, action, courage, passion, determination. It's linked with the element of fire, the color red, the root chakra, right? It governs stability, survival, and grounding. And the significance of Mars is that it calls us to ground ourselves and to take bold, decisive action toward our goals. So Mars is associated basically with your warrior spirit, right? Be courageous. Like in Greek mythology, the god of war was Ares, which is linked to Mars, right? And Mars, the weekday is linked to is Tuesdays. In Spanish is Martes, Mars Day, right? The next planet is Mercury, and Mercury's traits are communication, intellect, thought process. It's linked with the air element. It's linked with the color blue, so different hues of blue. It's associated with the throat chakra, which governs expression, truth, clarity. Obviously, if Mercury, the planet's traits are communication, well, throat chakra is associated with communication, right? And the significance is that it inspires honest communication, authenticity, and alignment between thoughts and words. And the weekday it's associated with is Wednesday. Now, in Spanish, it's miércoles. Mercury in Spanish is Mercurio, right? Now, the next planet is Jupiter. Its traits are expansion, wisdom, growth, and abundance. It's one of the biggest planets, if not the biggest. So when you think of abundance, you think about a lot, right? So Jupiter is a big planet. It's an abundant planet, right? It's linked with the element of ether or space, right? The color associated with is purple. Now, I have heard in different books and different information that the color gold is also associated with it, and I believe it's because purple and gold are associated with like royalty. But the chakra that is linked to is the third eye chakra, which governs intuition, insight, and spiritual vision. The significance of Jupiter is that it urges us to expand our awareness and trust our higher wisdom. And the weekday that it's associated with is Thursday, which in Spanish is jueves, Júpiter, right? But also Thursday, right? When we talk about the color purple and gold, these signify royalty, right? But Thursday is also linked with Thor, right? Like the superhero Thor, right? And he was considered like king, powerful, royalty, whatnot, right? But also the Egyptian god Thoth or Thoth, Thoth, and he was royalty. And any depictions of Thoth, you'll see him, you know, dripped in gold. So there's always correlations between these deities and the planets and colors and chakras. Like everything is in connection with each other. The next planet I'm going to talk about is Venus. Venus traits are love, beauty, harmony, and relationships. The element linked to it is earth. The colors are pink or green, like light green, sage, or whatnot. It's associated with the heart chakra, right? Because if Venus's traits are love, right, and harmony and relationships, well, you love with your heart, right? The heart chakra governs not only love but compassion and balance. And the significance of Venus is that it encourages us to open our hearts, right, to unconditional love and foster harmonious connections. Now, Venus is associated with the weekday Friday, which in Spanish is viernes, Venus, right? Now, one thing I want to touch on is religion doesn't fall far from none of this, right? And I'm going to give an example, right? So in Islam, their day of worship, of service, is on Fridays, which is called Juma, right? And Islam's color, or the color associated with Islam, is green, like Venus, right? Now, the symbol of Islam, like if you look at the Pakistan flag, right, is a crescent moon with a star at the center. But that star at the center is not just any star. It's actually the morning star. And the morning star is Venus. So the flag on Islam's symbol, the symbol on Islam's flag is in reference to Venus. Venus is associated with the color green. Islam is associated with the color green. Venus is associated with Friday. Islam, day of worship or service, is Fridays. That's pretty interesting. I didn't find that out till I put things together because, I do practice Islam or I have, and I don't consider myself Muslim, but I already knew this information about Islam. Then when I started tapping into astrology and all these other things, the chakras or whatnot, it just made sense. Like, wait a minute, these things are all correlated, right? The next day I'm going to talk about, the next planet is Saturn, which is associated with Saturday, Saturn Day, right? The traits are discipline, structure, responsibility, and karma. The element associated with it is earth. the color is indigo, which is like dark purple, but it's also associated with dark colors in general, like black, dark blues, dark grays, like dark colors, period, right? And it's associated with the crown chakra, which governs spiritual connection and enlightenment. And the significance of Saturn is that it teaches us to embrace discipline as a pathway to spiritual growth and higher understanding. Now, Saturn is, I don't want to say like a bad planet or anything like that, but it is looked at, it symbolizes discipline and structure, responsibility, karma. Like these are things that people kind of, these are things that are, stigmatized, right? Like people don't want to be disciplined. People don't want structure, responsibility, right? So these are things that people try to stay away from. But it also, these are the most important things for enlightenment, for growth. You have to be disciplined and responsible to grow. Like you can't, nobody could tell me they've reached enlightenment or anything like that and they're not disciplined, they're not responsible, they don't have structure, routine. Like it doesn't make sense. And Saturn, just think about also the colors, right? Dark colors and things like that. And just think about the day Saturday. Like Saturday is a day where it's a weekend, everyone's out and about. A lot of bad things happen on Saturday if you're out late. A lot of good things can happen, obviously, but if you're out too late, let's you in the club or something like that, and things could happen on a Saturday. Well, it's because it's associated with a dark planet. So, along with the planets, right, the chakras don't fall far behind, right? So we have 7 chakras. We have the root chakra, which is located at the base of your spine. It is associated with the color red. Its purpose is grounding, survival, stability, and it has a mantra, which is, mantras are like affirmations, basically, right? So I am this, I am that. That's your mantra. So the mantra for the root chakra is I am safe and secure, right? Survival mode. Now, the sacral chakra is located at your lower abdomen, and that is associated with the color orange. The purpose is creativity, emotions, relationships, and the mantra associated with the sacral chakra is I embrace my creativity and emotions. Now, when I talk about the mantras, right? It's important when you're meditating, right? Like let's say you want to focus on grounding, survival, stability in your life, right? You're going to focus on your root chakra. If you want to focus on your creativity, your emotions, relationships, you want to focus on your sacral chakra. For your solar plexus chakra, it's your upper abdomen, right? It's associated with the color yellow, and the purpose is personal power, self-esteem, confidence, and the mantra is I am powerful and confident. Now, this is the chakra when someone says, I got a gut feeling, right? I got a gut feeling, your intuition is kicking in. That's where the solar plexus chakra is located. And chakras are just, vortices, circles of energy in your body, right? And when you feel that gut feeling, that intuition, that is your solar plexus. So it's basically stating, be confident in what I am telling you or what you're feeling. Go with your gut feeling. The next chakra is the heart chakra. And this is one of the most important, obviously, right? It's at the center of your chest. It's associated with the colors green, pink. The purpose of it is love, compassion, harmony. And the mantra is, I am open to giving and receiving love. Now, along in meditation, right? And with the chakras, right? Along with mantras are mudras. And what are mudras? Mudras are hand gestures, right? So when you see someone meditating and they're like this or whatever, this is a mudra, right? And there's all different types of mudras that are associated with the chakras. I didn't touch on them now because it's a lot of information. I'll probably make a post about it, so you can see the hand gestures, right? But I will speak on the heart chakra, right? So the heart chakra, right? The mudra for the heart chakra is you have one hand on your heart, right? And then the other one open, like this, right? So you are focusing on your heart, right? But so it's kind of like you're open to love, and your hand out, you're receiving. You're open to receiving love, right? But one of the things that's super interesting, and I'm gonna get in my religious bag again, and I know some of this stuff is controversial, whatever. I'm just pointing out things from experiences and from information. Now, I go to a lot of museums, right? And I study all cultures or whatnot, books, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of this stuff, right? And 90% of the statues, the Indian statues, the Asian statues, Buddhism, and all these things, right? Indian gods, right? I'm saying 90% to be nice. It's almost all of them. They all are pictured or depicted, created doing mudras. And these are like, some of them look like humans, some of them are like in Hinduism, like they have like the elephant. You know what I'm saying? I forgot the name of the elephant, but he'll have like 8 arms and stuff, and he's doing a mudra, or it's doing a mudra, right? And the reason I state that is because I'm connecting it to religion. So when you think about the picture of Jesus Christ in the Christian Bible, right? Jesus Christ is always depicted with a hand on his heart and his hand open, right? And most of the time, there's a depiction of the heart, like on fire or whatnot, right? And all that is showing or depicting is a mudra. He is focusing on his heart, right? Or telling us, he's symbolizing for us to focus on our heart. Now, a lot of Eastern philosophy and cultures, a lot of them focus on that mudra, the heart mudra. And that's just, it's telling us what to focus on. We get lost in, in the material world, the physical world, and or whatnot, but we got to pay attention to things like that. And I can post pics too. I got thousands of pictures of the museum and all these statues that I'm talking about. And the first thing I notice in all of them, because when you know this information, right, you study this information, the first thing I notice is like, look at the mudra, tapping in with the heart. Some of them are just, I'll look at it and I'm like, okay, this one is signifying grounding, right? The grounding one, they might be touching the something like the land or something, right? They might be touching the floor or whatnot. That's signifying grounding, right? When they have their hands out like this, right? That's signifying like patience, right? And stuff like that. So I say that to say hand gestures are super important. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to what celebrities do. But yeah. The next chakra is the third eye. Now, the third eye, right here, right, is located between your eyebrows. The color associated with it is indigo, right? So purple. Its purpose is intuition, wisdom, spiritual vision. The element associated with it is light. And the mantra associated with it is I trust my inner wisdom. Now again, we're going to touch on religion. This time, Hinduism, right? And you see Indians, right, with the red dot on their forehead. They have their own meaning for it. And I'm not I'm not touching on this to you know, speak on anybody else's culture or anything like that. I'm just making correlation between these things, right? That dot in the middle is the third eye, plain and simple. And if you know about psychology, right, the one of the main parts of the brain is the pineal gland, which is at the center, right, in your skull, and it's a tiny piece of your brain. It's like a walnut, right? But that's where enlightenment occurs, where thoughts are processed, right? They come through the pineal gland. It's extremely important. And a lot of the foods we eat, a lot of the chemicals in the water, and people smoke and drugs and all these things, even in clothing and whatnot, this affects, it calcifies our pineal gland. So it causes us to lose track of our inner selves, right? And start focusing on things that don't really matter. When you start decalcifying your pineal gland by eating better, doing things that are aligned with your inner self, meditating and writing and yoga and mudras and mantras and all these things, right? Tapping in with nature, that decalcifies that pineal gland, especially like detoxing, herbs and stuff like that, right? That's when you start thinking clearer, start seeing things from a different light. Your third eye is opening up. Now, last but not least is the crown chakra, right? At the top of your head, right? So the crown chakra, again, you want to talk about religion? Angels with halos, right? Jesus, God, whatever is depicted with a halo above his or her head. That's the crown chakra. That's the crown chakra. And it's associated with the color white, right? Or violet, but I like to go with white. The purpose is spiritual connection and enlightenment. And the element associated with it is cosmic energy, not just any energy, is cosmic energy, right? From above us. And the mantra is, I am connected to the divine cosmic energy. So, I learned, first of all, I learned about all these things in this book right here. Everyone should get this book. I'm going to post a picture of it. But this book is called The Little Book of Chakras by Cindy Dale. This book has everything I just talked about in depth and more. There's a ton of things associated with the chakras. Ailments, like when you have illnesses or diseases or whatnot, you can focus on certain chakras to clear them out. There's animals associated, there's sounds associated with the chakras, there's plants, flowers, herbs, foods associated with the chakras. There's all types of things, right? But that's an extremely good book. Now, last but not least, in my last video, I touched on, like I said earlier, I like to touch on, if I'm going to touch on celebrities or something that's trending, it's going to be on a deeper level, right? And the last video I touched on, my first video, I was touching on the topic of Trump, Elon Musk, the whole Jay-Z Diddy scandal, right? My last video, I focused on the trending of the Carter name. So like Jay-Z, Sean Carter was trending, Beyonce knows Carter, Jimmy Carter, Vince Carter was trending. And I predicted that Lil Wayne, Dwayne Carter, would be trending. And, ironically, 2 weeks later, because I posted that video on January 12th, and then 2 weeks later, Lil Wayne was trending. He was trending because he stated he was going to drop the Carter 6, his album, long anticipated album. But he was also trending because he went on a Twitter rant talking about the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs in football were cheating or whatnot. So he was just trending, for these reasons. He also made a statement that he's going to do a reunion tour with the Hot Boys, right? His son was trending for coming out with a new music video, and Lil Wayne was in it. So he was trending for a multitude of reasons. Now, when I stated in the video that I believed he would be trending, I didn't know how or why. And the first thing I said was, I hope it's nothing bad. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Lil Wayne fan. I like Lil Wayne, right? But I just seen it coming because the Carters were all trending, and he's one of the most important Carters. So to me, it was kind of obvious, right? I didn't know it was gonna happen that soon. I said that I believed he would be trending sometime this year, and it just happened to be 2 weeks later. But whatever, right? Now, I'm also gonna focus on someone else right now. Two people in particular, right? And in that same video last week, or the last video I posted, I touched on Kendrick Lamar, the significance between the calamities in California, the importance of Kendrick Lamar, right? The significance of his presence, more spiritually than like physically, right? Because he's one of the few artists that embodies authenticity and audacity. Remember those two words, right? Because he's always his authentic self, his true self. He, he goes at any artist. He doesn't care who it is. When he was first coming up, he was taking, shots at like Jay-Z and them. And then now he's back and forth with Drake or whatnot. Like, he doesn't care who it is. He stands on what he believes in, which is where he came up, how he came up, 10 toes down on the West Coast. He is true to his family, wife, kids, the black family as a whole. He's super authentic, and he has the audacity to be himself, right? Now, I also stated that he will be performing at this year's Super Bowl in New Orleans, right? And one of the things that happened that is very significant, and I love that this happened, right, is that he decided to add someone to the picture, to feature someone to perform with him at the Super Bowl. And that person is none other than Syzygy, which is, SZA's one of the best R&B artists, male or female, right now, like artist period in the world, right? And she came up. She's also from the West Coast. She came up under Kendrick Lamar, TDE, like under his tutelage, right? But she's made a name for herself, right? Again, one of the best artists. She was actually trending today for not only the Super Bowl announcement, right? But also her album is trending. She just came out with a new movie that's trending. She has been nominated to like several awards, right? So the reason that this is important is because Kendrick Lamar symbolizes the masculine, the divine masculine energy, being his authentic self, right? But now he's bringing a female into the picture that is also her authentic self and tapping in with her true purpose. If you see her post recently, she's tapping into like her spirituality. She's like in India with Buddhists and tapping into nature and all of that, the divine feminine energy. So them performing together on the global stage at the Super Bowl is symbolically is showing us the power of the masculine, Kendrick Lamar, and the feminine, SZA, coming together to create a whole in unison. And that's important because I touched on the last episode that Kendrick Lamar was showing unity when he brought the Bloods and the Crips up on stage and they were like 100 deep, right? He's trying to push that narrative of unity over division. And we're going to touch on unity over division soon too. But he's pushing that narrative. So him bringing SZA with him is exactly what we need. Now, what's even more interesting and fascinating, honestly, is that SZA was not only chosen, but the timing is right on point. Why? Well, The planetary alignment, what I started with, I'm going to close with what I started with. The planetary alignment, the celestial bodies in unison, are called a syzygy, right? And it's not no coincidence, right, that the artist SZA will be performing at the Super Bowl in February. At the same time, a cosmic event is performing in the stars called Syzygy. So this cosmic phenomenon is performing in the stars, right? While SZA, a star herself, is performing at the same time in February. Syzygy, if we break down the word syzygy, is SZA energy. And that's important because SZA's energy, which translates to the divine feminine energy, is what we need right now. We need love. We need nurturing. We need that motherly feel, that matriarchy back into the picture, especially with what's going on in LA. They need tons of love and nurture right now. And it's no coincidence these two stars are from LA. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to be on the biggest stage in the world, performing, showing that unity, showing that love, performing love songs. Syzygy, SZA energy. As above, so below. I'm gonna keep touching on that quote for a long time. Inshallah, right? Because it's everywhere we look, it plays itself out in real life. What happens above us in the stars, the syzygy, is happening down below on earth. SZA. And you know, some people are gonna look at this and be like, "Oh, he's crazy. He's bugging, right?" But those are closed-minded individuals, people that are more than likely not in alignment with themselves, with their true selves, don't even know what I'm talking about. And that's okay. I'm not for everybody. This information is not for everybody. But those who find this intriguing, thought-provoking, right? Do your own research. You don't have to believe anything I said. There is nobody on the internet talking about syzygy and SZA energy. There are people talking about the planetary alignment, of course. There's people talking about, Kendrick Lamar, because for different reasons, because he's performing and all of that. There's absolutely nobody talking about Syzygy and SZA energy. But it's right in front of us. You know what I'm saying? For us to see. I like to say pay attention to the signs. And, just be aware. Be open-minded of these things. But last but not least, I'm going to conclude this by just touching on the fact that this planetary alignment is a reminder. It's just a reminder that the universe and our inner selves are connected. It's a time for us to align with our energies, tap into both the masculine and divine feminine energies, because we do have both energies within us. And we got to focus on growth and rise above these distractions, right? This is not the time to be distracted, to be playing around and wasting time. No, this is not it for that, right? The cosmic energy right now, it supports transformation, both universal and personal. So I just, I suggest y'all embrace this alignment, right? Start meditating, specifically on your chakras. Tap into your chakras and connect with your inner purpose and your authentic self, right? Have the audacity to be your authentic self. Have the audacity to seek better for yourself, your family, those around you. Have the audacity to stand for what you believe in. And with that being said, again, I appreciate y'all for being here. I appreciate everyone for being here. You know, follow me if you don't already on Instagram at The Audacity Show. Follow me on YouTube at The Audacity Show. On Reddit, TikTok at The Audacity Show. I'm on all platforms. And again, I'm grateful for everyone. And I hope to see y'all again. Enjoy the show. Peace and love. Peace and love. Transmission out.